There's a higher level than independence. Stephen Covey talks about this. There's 3 levels. There's dependence when you're a little baby and you can't survive without your parents. There's independence when we can do everything on our own. We pay our own bills, we feed ourselves. Okay, we start our businesses, right? We wear a lot of hats. But then the level above that is really where we thrive. And that level is interdependence. And that's like an ecosystem, right? So everyone depends on each other. And that's where you really have to be selective about the people that you're surrounding yourself with, both inside of your business and outside of your business. I think people just get scared because we choose the wrong people sometimes and we get burned.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My guest on this episode is the lovely Erica Martin. She is a world-class high-ticket sales expert, a phenomenal entrepreneur who's launched 8 successful businesses in the last 16 years. Just great human being and talented entrepreneur. We're talking sales and we're talking mindset. We're talking everything you need in order to grow your business. You're not going to want to miss this one. Check it out. Erica, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Look, for the listeners who may not be familiar with you, and I've heard you speak, and I knew I had to have you on the podcast. Why don't you give us a little bit of background into your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I would be happy to. I have owned my own businesses for the past 16 years, 8 different businesses, and it started when I was 18 years old with a martial arts school. And that was kind of my break into entrepreneurship, and grew that school pretty successfully through a lot of highs and lows, including the recession, and sold it when I was 26, turned it over to family. And then I started my very first online consulting company, leveraging the knowledge and experience that I had built over those 8 years, running my martial arts school and growing it to be in the top 0.01% of martial arts schools worldwide. And I started a consulting company with a business partner, teaching other martial arts school owners how to start after school and summer camp programs. And through that business, we helped hundreds of martial arts school owners add 6 figures plus per year to their existing businesses. On our end, I closed 1.2 million in sales for our company in the first 2 years, and we became the top consulting company in the martial arts industry very quickly. And sold that in 2017, and then did many other different consulting projects with 7, 8-figure companies helping scale.
Love it. So I got to ask, how has martial arts prepared you, or I guess, what did it teach you about business?
Oh my gosh, Jason, fundamentally everything. Starting with self-discipline and focus. So, I mean, as going into business at such a young age was really, it was really a blessing because, I didn't go through those teenage years and, the wild and crazies and all of that. I just leaned into my martial arts training, which was about focusing on one thing. I'm putting 100% effort into that and watching it grow. And I got to see that happen in real time with my martial arts school. So when I opened at 18 years old, the average martial arts school owner in the US generates $100,000 gross, because there's all different sizes of martial arts schools. So to give you a little bit of perspective, in my first year, with a lot of hustle and a lot of focus and a lot of self-discipline, we did $350,000, and I was only 18 years old and a girl. So, really foundationally for me, that was kind of, we say in the South, the proof's in the pudding. And that was like, oh, all this martial arts training about how to live my life and how to be a high performer. If I just channel that into business, we can help a lot of people. We can make a lot of money.
Love it. So clearly you're a sales beast. I don't like the excuse, and a girl. I love the fact that you're just a sales beast. So, we've had a lot of different salespeople on the podcast, and I'm always fascinated because there's no right way, like specifically, this is the right way to sell. This is the only way you're going to make sales. And I believe sales, more than anything else, congruency matters, right? You can be taught the best closing lines in the world, but if it's not congruent to who you are, and you're not the pushy, or you're not the confident person, it won't matter, right? But it's not the line, it's the delivery of everything. So I love the different approaches. And something you talk a lot about is reimagining, or I guess redefining the sales process. So can you
Yeah.
elaborate on what that means?
Yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, there's so many different schools of thought when it comes to sales, and the truth is there's not one that's right or wrong. There are things that work better and there are things that don't work as well. But really, when it comes to reimagining the sales process, it comes down to building a high level of trust with the person that you're talking to. So being able to listen, being able to relate with them, and being able to really draw them in to a vision of something that's bigger than what they can imagine. So that's really the position that I come from. When I work with people, I get to know who they are and then understand how we can magnify who they are and deepen the relationships that they're having really on the front end before somebody has even become a client.
So I guess that goes into pitching and selling, right? So, and I know you say there's a clear difference between the two of them. So, and I agree. So, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, what's that difference? Where's that line, and when do you cross over between pitching and selling, and maybe what are the elements of pitching versus selling?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, to me, it's really about, I mean, the word pitching can be used in many different ways, right? You can talk about pitching from stage. You can talk about pitching an offer. It can be interchangeable with the word closing, right? I feel like there's a lot of semantics in the world of sales. So I just like to keep it super simple, right? When I talk about a sales process, really what I'm talking about is building a foundation of a long-term relationship, starting with getting to know somebody, asking the right questions, and then basically the pitch is really about an offer. And if, in my opinion, if someone is selling well, there's really not a pitch. It's really about listening to what somebody needs and then saying, hey, I know that I can help you. Here's a way that we can help you get what you want. It's really about my belief, it's really about a consultative sales process, where you get on the same side of the table as the person across from you. You get an understanding of what their pain is. And if you know that you can help them get out of it, it only makes sense to say, look, let me help you. Here's how we do that together.
Love it. And I mean, when people are going through this process with you, right? I feel like when you're helping them define who they are, I think sales for some reason it gives people so much anxiety, right? Like there's a problem with it. And we're selling in every aspect of our life, and without even realizing that we're salespeople in almost everything we do. But what is it about sales that makes people so uncomfortable, or gives them such anxiety of like, oh no, I gotta sell my product, I gotta sell my service?
Yeah, well, I really think it's a matter of, there's a lot of good people out there. Every entrepreneur that I have ever worked with has been a good person, and they really feel passionately about helping people, and they become very attached to this, I want to help people. And if they know that they can, a lot of times they can come across very pushy because they get ahead of where the potential client is at. They're like, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you, right? And so it becomes this kind of push pull when somebody really needs to feel validated first, right? They really need to feel understood first. I feel like I'm getting off topic from your question a
No,
little
let's
bit.
do it. Let's do it. We'll go down rabbit holes. I love it. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, bring me back on track here, because I feel like I went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, no problem. We're just talking about like why people have such anxiety around
Yeah. So
selling.
the reason that they have anxiety about selling is because they are thinking that the person that's selling is thinking about themselves. They're thinking about how they want to help. They're thinking about their business. They're thinking about the money in the bank, especially if things are tight, they're just getting started, if things are on the line, they get nervous about selling. And it's not just them, it's everybody. It's because we're self-focused. If we can really turn the spotlight from ourselves and turn it on the person across from us and really give them the floor and give them the attention, which is where I was going with that rabbit hole, then it takes the nervousness away. So I'll give you an example. My very first time that I was pitching from stage, selling from stage, whatever you want to call it, I spoke with a friend of mine who was a international speaker. He was incredibly good at what he did. He spoke on hundreds of stages per year. And I was telling him that I was really nervous about getting up there. I was really nervous about presenting, not just about selling, but even just getting up there and delivering content. And he said, you know what, Erica? He goes, that's because you're focused on you doing a good job. You need to trust that you're going to get up there and you're going to deliver exactly what that audience needs. And you need to focus on them. And if you can change one life in that audience, then you're making a huge impact. And so when I reframed it that way, I was able to get on stage and I was able to look people in the eye from stage. I was able to see their heads nodding. I was able to see them taking notes. And just that feedback alone, I was like, okay, I totally see the value in this. So it's the same thing with selling, whether it's one-to-one or on stage. If you just turn the focus off of yourself and turn it on to how you can serve in that moment without an expectation of somebody saying yes to the sale, you get the nerves shaken off a little bit.
It's funny because I also think, I agree with everything you said, but I think there's also the reverse that happens a lot of times, right? When people care so much about helping other people, they also then have a problem asking for money, right? And I find it fascinating because you can't help anyone if if your business goes broke, right? If you're not making money, you can't help more people. So how do you help people? Or I guess for the listeners who sit there and say, look, I know I could help people, but like, I feel like I'm charging too much, or I have a problem telling my price out because, I don't know, I want to help them, but if I want to help them, why am I asking them for so much money? How do you get people over that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a bunch of ways to get people over that because you're right. That is a really common thing, right? With like people that are especially heart-centered. They're like, how do I ask for the money, right? So the first thing that I have to say to that, and I talk about this all the time, with investment comes commitment. Okay. How many times have you gotten something for free and you're like, thanks, and you chuck it, right?
Yep.
You're not invested, right? There's no skin in the game from you. So what I tell people is if you want to change people's lives, the best thing you can do is charge them. Period. End of story. Think about something that you really stretched for, right? That like you dug in your pocket. You're like, oh man, like this is a big one, right? You put it on the line. You're going to do the work behind that. You're not going to walk away from that investment. And we have to be anchored in that and know that if we're going to help people, they have to be willing, and they have to be willing to equally invest as you are, because we know we're going to help people. So that's kind of the first thing I would say is, remember, with investment comes commitment. The second part of that is the reason that I love sales so much is because you're right, Jason. People have had really rough sales experiences in the past, and they're skeptical and they don't want to be pushed, right? So I love to have an opportunity to sit one-on-one with somebody and re-script what a good sales experience is. Because a good sales experience to me is simply helping the right person make the right decision. And if it's not the right fit, give them good advice and point them in another direction.
Which I'm going to say is 100% the ethical and right thing to do. However, when you're starting a business, the hardest thing to do, because you need the money, right? So what's your advice, I guess, for the entrepreneurs listening who may just be starting their business right now and be like, yeah, easy for you to say, I want to work with the right person and only the right person because you're Erica Martin, you're getting people, filling out applications to work with you, and you have your pick of the litter. But I just started my brand. I just started my services, and I'm putting it out there, and I don't know if I could, who I could really help. So I don't want to say no to everyone, although it may be the right thing to do.
I totally get that. And look, Jason, I'm going to tell all your audience, don't listen to me. Enroll the wrong person. See how that goes for you. See how you like it. because I've done that, right? The reason I can say that is, Jason, I've started 8 different businesses over the course of 16 years. I've done a lot of selling in a lot of different environments. And yeah, there have been times, especially if I was just getting started, I was kind of figuring out who is this ideal client. Like, you can write it out on paper all you want about your ideal client, but the truth of the matter is, until you start helping people, working with people, having them pay you, you're not going to know. You can only steer a ship that's moving. So for those who are just getting started, enroll somebody, right? Don't use that as an excuse to not enroll somebody. Don't go searching for the unicorn of perfect person. Really, it's about you sitting with somebody and saying, can I help them? And if the answer is yes, then we move forward. When I talk about helping the right person make the right decision, it's really across the board. And there has to be that gut feeling, not all money is good money, but for those that have never been in that position and never experienced that not all money is good money, first step, take their money, help them, and then course correct.
It's like the headache client where like they're willing to pay. I'm like, take the money.
Exactly.
Take the money, figure it out. But I would advise the listeners, don't go that average. Don't go that route. Actually listen, because it's like almost like what Erica's telling you is like, don't touch the hot stove. And don't go touch the hot stove just to see if it's really hot. Like, trust Erica and what she's saying here. So although she said, go do this and try it out for yourself, I recommend you don't do that. That's the easiest way to like go nuts in your business. But I think you raised a fascinating point that businesses are fluid, right? You have to keep pivoting and adapting. And when you sit there and say, this is the only client I want to work with, that's fine for now. But if you're not always adapting your business and going, and so you've worked with a lot of businesses. Do you think that's one thing that really holds businesses back, is that they're married to how their business is right now?
Yeah, I think it's not even necessarily married to how their business is right now. Well, it depends. There are different stages in the game, right? So for somebody just getting started, it's more of a marriage to this ideal that they're creating, this business that they think they want to create. When the truth of the matter is, and you know this as well as I do, it's just about getting started. And then it's the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing. And eventually you're like, oh man, like I really love this, right? On the other side of that, for the established businesses, I think it's more a fear of losing what they've already built, because it is a struggle. Business is a struggle. And, it's a constant adaptation. So for the existing businesses that are doing, say, 6 figures, 7 figures, especially when they get up into those bigger numbers, like 8 figures, you've gone from a tiny little sailboat that you can pivot and navigate really easy to a big old cruise ship that you're like, ooh, like one false move and things go bad real fast.
It's true. Because I was listening to you talk, and when you were like married to the idea, a lot of the prospects I speak to or the people I coach, they are married to that idea, right? It's like, this is and they approach business. And this is what the point I was trying to get to is they approach business as a baby, right? This is my baby. And I guess thankfully I never, ever thought of my business like that. I have 2 little kids, right? I would not exit my little kids for money, right? I would not sit there and say, here you go. Yes. Although there are some days, I'd entertain offers, but I don't think I'd actually ever go through and pull the trigger. But everyone looks at their business as their baby versus, sitting there saying, no, it's a means to an end of whatever goal you want to accomplish. Right. And it's okay. The second this stops taking me to the journey or the destination I want to go, I got to jump out and go to something else and abandon it no matter what. As someone who started 16 businesses, how many? 8 businesses?
No,
8 businesses in 16 years. Sorry, I just flipped the number. 8 businesses in 16 years. Is that an attitude you have? Is that an attitude that you find most entrepreneurs have, and it's just the people who are starting off think it's their baby? Like, I'm curious to hear your take on all that.
Yeah, I think of business more as the goose that lays the golden egg, right? You got to take care of the goose. You got to nurture the goose, right? You can't starve the goose, but it's also not your baby, right? And also, to be fair,
you can eat the goose.
you can eat the goose.
Right? Like, yeah, there you go.
Right. And I think, when the way that I look at things, and I think one of my superpowers, and especially, like I said, like you said, with businesses over 16 years, is the know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Right. So I looked at this, my first business, I'll be honest with you, Jason, I did look at that like that was my baby. It was a family business. I had done martial arts my whole life. I, was super passionate about it. I gave everything to that business. But I will say on the other side of that, I experienced a significant amount of burnout, right? But there was something to be said for going into a brick and mortar business with a lease. You are committed, right? I feel like it's really different in the coaching industry because it's easier to kind of pivot and jump around and kind of give up when things get hard. It's not like you have a 5-year lease that you're like, shit, I'm in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got to try this offer. I'm going to move this offer. Oh, I could switch around to this.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's really a balance that people have to figure out, and knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them, but really giving a good faith, effort, and a commitment. So what I would say to somebody is make some sales, hit 6 figures in your business, and then see how you feel. It's the same thing my dad told me when I was 14 and I wanted to quit martial arts. He goes, look, you've done this for 8 years, earn your black belt, and then see how you feel.
Love it. And another thing that I've heard you talk about that I think is a good segue from this is that building a business that feeds your life, not one that eats away at it. Why do you think so many people get stuck or create something that, I guess, for lack of better words, sucks the life out of them? And how can they change that?
Therapy. Okay. Yeah, no, but in all seriousness, I think a lot of times, I'm going to talk specifically about the coaching space. Are most of your listeners in the coaching space, Jason?
Wide range.
Okay. So I'll talk about the coaching space a little bit because this has been my experience. I think there's a lot of people that have worked really hard for a long time, right? Whether it's in corporate, earning a living in corporate, suffering in corporate, or even building their own business and they're just over it, right? Like it's a business that they started for whatever reason, or they fell into it, or family business, and they just dedicated to it. And then they're just burned out, right? And so then instead of addressing the burnout, instead of addressing, hey, I need to rest and rethink and give myself just a period of time, right? This is a culture where we're always moving forward. Rest is not glorified, right? And I think if somebody has built themselves a business and their life is not looking the way that they want it to, and their internal world is a mess, the first thing you need to do is just pause. Just take a pause, right? And not even to reevaluate, but just give yourself some time away. Because what I know about entrepreneurs is when they have the downtime without anything else around them, that's when the ideas come. That's when the solutions come. And too many times, people can't see the forest through the trees. So that would be my first suggestion, is to just pause, like go on a vacation, or something, kind of take some time away.
Vacation? What's that?
I know, see?
It's like a unicorn that you're talking about here. What? There's a thing called a vacation? Yeah.
There is. Or take a month off. I mean, that's a big ask, right? Because everybody's pushing so hard. But, really asking yourself the foundation of why you are building something. And are you running away from something and running into something because you're just going to build something that's going to burn yourself out? Or is this genuinely something that you're fueled with passion and excitement versus anxiety and fear?
I mean, I think there's a dichotomy in growing a business. One is people underestimate just how hard it is to grow a successful business. Mm-hmm. And then I think people underestimate how easy it can be to grow a successful business because they get in their own way and they make everything harder.
Yep.
Right. So I think, I'm fascinated with, the people saying how hard it is, and then, I've launched successful businesses and, I could definitely work harder than I do. And, I've spent years feeling guilty over it, being like everyone's banging their head against the wall and they're grinding it out and I'm not. And I think something that used to make its way around the entrepreneurial community, and you know this for sure, is and although to be fair, it's less these days than it was a couple of years ago, is the rise and grind, right? Is the hustle all day mentality. And that's the only way you're going to work. Out hustle everyone. And I agree, hard work and work ethic is super important, and we could all get better at that. But you advocate something differently. You actually advocate that by doing that, it will actually lead to making less money. Why is that?
Because, I mean, especially if it's a single person that's running their business, right? If we look at a pie chart of energy, you have 100% of energy, right? There's a certain percentage of that that's going to go to your personal life, right? There's a certain percentage of that really needs to go to self-care, taking care of yourself, educating yourself, personal development, right? The personal development can even be another aspect of that, right? So, and then your business is another segment of that. And I think here's what I'm saying is, in the segment that you are working on your business, in that piece of the pie, work hard, hustle hard, right? But don't let that piece of the pie expand to 70% of your energy, where you're giving up family, where you're giving up self-care, where you're giving up personal development, all for the sake of the business, because that is the easiest recipe for burnout.
But to an extent, there comes sacrifice, right? And look, I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm the guy that will jump off the call if I hear my son crying outside the door when I'm working from home that he needs me, right? It's like, no, I like that goes into it. And I believe that's extremely wrong, right? I'm not going to say that everyone should do it. It is the wrong thing to do, because I have a responsibility to grow a business. And I have a responsibility to provide for this household, right? But at the same time, I have the hardest time, I guess, rectifying doing that, but then missing out on opportunities that I'm not going to have years down the road, to build something for years down the road, my family to have, but miss out on the years with them in order for me to really appreciate it. And while they actually want to hang out with me and be around me, versus cool, 16 years later, look what we built. We could go on vacations. I don't even want to go on vacation with you anymore, Dad. Who are you? But I do. So I'd love to know how you coach people through this, or how you go through this, because I'm still trying to figure this out. But I do believe that the way I've been handling it is wrong, because I do believe there is some sort of sacrifice you have to make, right? At every growth stage to grow your business comes with a piece of sacrifice. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. This is my personal therapy. I don't even, if the listeners don't get any value from this, at least I will. So let's go.
Hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Well, look, Jason, this isn't easy, and it is a fine balance, right? And it's one of these things that it's not prescriptive. Everybody kind of you have to be able to trust your gut. But the thing that I want to address is the difference between reacting and responding, right? I believe that structure creates success, right? So if we have, like, I don't have kids yet. I have a dog. So, but I've worked with thousands of kids and thousands of families, and I've seen, things that work and things that don't work. And it is a balance, right? When you have a responsibility as an adult, and you have a commitment, for example, on a call with somebody, and your child is coming up to you, I need you. It's a moment for education. It's a moment to pause. It does not mean that you abandon the call. It does not mean you abandon your child. It means that you respond instead of react. You say, hey, whoever I'm talking to, sorry, just give me 1 second. Let me just address this. And you turn to your child and you say, hey, look, you're going to give me 15 minutes. I'm going to get to you, something like that, which I know doesn't always work, but assuming you have support and somebody else in the household that can help you, which some people don't have the luxury of, right? Yep. So it's really about finding that balance and using those times as education. Where that becomes detrimental, however, is when it's always hold on, right? So that's where I say the structure is what gives you the ability to be proactive about these times, right? And if this is a consistent thing that's happening, you can have, I work with clients that are single mothers, right? And they have their kid on the floor with the iPad or with the game, and it just is what it is, and it's messy, right? And they're doing the best they can. And look, sometimes we just have to do the best we can, and you got to trust your gut on that.
I love that. I love the fact that the suggestion you made of turning it into a teaching moment, right?
Yeah.
Because first of all, with the landscape we're in right now, no client is ever going to fault you, right? We're like they're all working from home too. They're all like or were, and they all have their own messiness. And I think there's like there's appeal in the messiness at
Yeah,
times, right?
there is.
Of putting yourself out there. And I also think it's a great education moment for the kids to go through as well and teach them about commitment and like care and time structure and whatnot. I love that.
I think it's also about presence as well. Because I think that there's a lot of respect that comes from being fully present with a client,
Yep.
and there's a lot that comes from being fully present with your child. So if you can communicate to both parties, client, I really want to be present with you. Can you just give me a moment to handle this? Kid, I really want to be present with you as your father, but I'm in the middle of doing this, and I will come back to you and I will give you 100% of my attention. I can't do it right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I think anyone, I can only speak for myself that anyone that makes me choose between one or the other, it's a no brainer for me. Like you'll like gotta find gotta find a new business somewhere else. I want to bring it back to sales for a second because I think the offer, right, isn't talked enough about, right? I think it's people
Yeah.
have a product, they think everyone's going to buy it, have a service, they think everyone's going to buy it. Oh, I was in a couple of magazines, everyone's going to be interested in what I have to say.
Right.
But I think the offer is where most people go wrong. I
Yes.
know you have the irresistible offer. So if we can, let's talk about some of the core elements of an irresistible offer.
Absolutely. So the first core element is a lopsided value proposition. So what that means is the perceived value of what I'm delivering is significantly higher than what I'm asking investment wise, even if it is a significant investment, right? So that's one thing, is the value that I'm delivering exceeds, right? The second aspect is when I create an irresistible offer, I'm looking for a win-win-win. I don't just look for 2 wins, I look for 3. How do I win? How do they win? And how does their clients win, or whoever is important to them? So I'll give you an example. I have a client that we all agreed that we wanted to work together for a year, right? We did like a 3-month kind of test thing, and we got into it on our first month. It was very clear that, they basically wanted me to help them build out SOPs for every aspect of their business. We all agree that can't be done in 3 months, right? So first of all is creating an expectation, because creating expectations is important too. It sets you up for a proper offer. So I didn't come in going, hey, in this 3 months, we're going to build out your whole business, right? I'm clear about what we can do. We can do this one thing, but there are these other things that you're going to want, and everybody agrees, right? So when I was creating an offer specifically for them, which is another part of this, don't get married to what's on paper, right? Don't get married to your offer that way. If you're on the phone with somebody and you can think of ways to help them, the offer is just the container, right? Be flexible with how that container works for what this person needs. If your container says bi-weekly calls for 45 minutes and you really feel like these people need accountability, give them weekly calls for a half an hour, and explain that, right? So back to the win-win-win with this particular client. They had really high inventory costs for the end of this year, inventory tax they're going to have for the end of this year. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving financial advice at all. But one thing I do know is consulting is something you can write off on your taxes, right? So excuse me. Sorry about that. So I presented an offer, which is exactly what they need. They need a year together with me, right? They want me to build out their SOPs with them. 2 is I win because I really, and this is a whole other topic, but I really like to incentivize paid in fulls. And we can talk about that later. But I wanted to make them a pay in full offer, which saved them money for paying in full. That's another win. I guess we're doing 4 wins. And then the other win for them is like, hey, I'm not giving you advice, but by the way, if you want to offset that inventory tax, we can do that this year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. I if I can I push you into giving more creative ways that you structure your deals?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is we have to make sure that we win, right? Like whatever the number is, it has to be a number that I feel excited about, because here's the problem. A lot of times people sell their souls to just like get a client, right?
Yep.
And like they'll wheel and deal on the offer. Here's the thing. I never wheel and deal on the actual number. Right? The number is the number, because if I don't honor that number, it doesn't give me the ability to serve the way that I want to serve. So always honor your number. Whatever the price is, keep the price the same. You can offer a certain price for payment plans, and you can offer a discount if they pay in full. So if they want it to be less, then they can pony up front.
Yep.
Okay. So I like to have options for people, first of all. So an option payment plan, option paid in full. The other side of that is really about the container, like we talked about. So I will talk with somebody, I will kind of have an idea in mind of what I want to do with them. Okay. So for example, this client that I was telling you I did the 3-month offer with, it was my first time working in their niche. It's a dive store. And I'm a diver, and I got like really excited about that, but I had never worked with a brick and mortar dive store before. And so for me, I like to get my hands on things. I like to get in it. And I just told them, I don't usually do this, but I actually want to fly out to your location to do a 2-day intensive with you. And so I just created something on the spot. I knew I wanted to do the 2 days with them. And then as we were talking, I'm like, what else do they need? Okay, they need lead up calls so that we can decide what we're doing. It helps me and it helps them. So we did 3 lead up calls, right? And then what do they need after that? Because the biggest thing after a 2-day intensive is people can't implement everything, right? It's overwhelming. So then what do we need on the other side of that? We need, a few months of coaching on the other side. And so while I was talking to them, I knew what I wanted to do, which was fly out there for 2 days. But the more that I talked to them, I realized I needed to put all of this together. So my recommendation is, and by the way, Jason, this is a really advanced strategy. This is not something that's for a brand new beginner. I just want to say that right now.
Good way to go bust. Fly out to all the clients that pay you $1,000 a month and see how that takes you.
No. Well, yeah. And this was a $25,000 package.
Yeah.
So honor the pricing, honor yourself, and say, what do I need to make this happen? I knew that for the 2-day intensive, for me to go out there just for 2 days alone, that's $25K. But I was able to build in other things that I could deliver. So I'm honoring my pricing, but then also giving them what they need. So it's an easy yes for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, aside from experience, you learning all this, right? How important is it surrounding yourself with the right people, mentors, coaches, and how has that affected your success?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, it's vitally important. It's vitally important, especially when you're just getting started. So I think there's seasons for things. When I'm just getting started in something, and for example, just starting a new business and it's a new niche for me, I'll surround myself with mentors and coaches that I feel like will specifically help me with practical aspects of that business, right? I want to look at somebody who's done and modeled what I want to do and say, look, I'm going to stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And I immerse myself in that, and I learn every in and out. And I was known for doing, like, I was like the star student, right? With those mentors. However, we can't grow our own businesses and our own experience just avoiding mistakes that others make. At some point, man, you got to stretch those wings and you have to start testing your own ability. And then when you slip and fall, you can reach out to those people. So on the mentors and coaches side, it's vitally important, but also at a certain point, I think people can use it as a crutch. And then the other side of that is building your top 5. Who are the top 5 people that you spend your time with? What do you spend your time talking about? And I know for me, I surround myself with people with integrity, people that I just kind of energetically jive with, people that are intelligent, people that make good choices, and people that push me to kind of see something bigger than myself. And usually that's people in many different industries. So I'm also getting perspectives, and that's what makes me really good at what I do.
No, that's great advice. And I'm a sponge, and I often ask myself this all the time. I always ask, who is one person that could change where I'm at right now?
Mhm.
Right? Who is somebody that could change, or if I have a goal, who's someone that could get me to that goal quicker?
Mhm.
And those are the people that you need to find out. So if it's like, obviously, if you say Elon Musk, well, great.
Yeah.
Let's reverse engineer a little bit back from Elon Musk and do like the 6 degrees of separation. Maybe go to the first degree first.
Right, right.
But like I ask in my network, right? In the people I know, I want to go here. I'm launching something. Who can help me? Who can
Yes.
help me and go? And I think most of my success, and I've said this on a lot of podcasts, and most of my success, and even getting people on this podcast, right? Like people like you to come on, it's asking. And people
Yes.
don't ask for help. People don't ask for everything. And I almost find it's arrogant to think you could go at it alone.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but I mean, maybe it's arrogant, or maybe it's conditioned that we have to be self-made men and women. And the thing that people don't talk about is there's always support, right? If you think about the hero's journey, if you think about any Marvel movie you've ever seen, right? There's always a sage. There's always that wise person that's kind of whispering in their ear along the way. There's always the sidekick, right? That's just like, you can do it, right?
Yep.
It's like a movie wouldn't be interesting if there's one character that only, is like Castaway. You know what I mean? I mean, that was kind of interesting, but he
It
still had
had
a ball.
Wilson. It had Wilson.
He had Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah.
But imagine if he didn't,
Yeah.
and I feel like too many people are trying to go at it like Castaway. And like, how victorious are you really when you just end up beat up? You got a nasty ass beard and a real bad sunburn.
Yeah. Watching Castaway with no Wilson is like probably like looking through your Ring doorbell and just watching what's going on outside and just being like, oh, great movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When really, there's a higher level than independence. Stephen Covey talks about this. There's 3 levels. There's dependence when you're a little baby and you can't survive without your parents. There's independence when we can do everything on our own. We pay our own bills, we feed ourselves. Okay, we start our businesses, right? We wear a lot of hats. But then the level above that is really where we thrive. And that level is interdependence. And that's like an ecosystem, right? So everyone depends on each other. And that's where you really have to be selective about the people that you're surrounding yourself with, both inside of your business and outside of your business. I think people just get scared because we choose the wrong people sometimes and we get burned.
So how do you level up in business and I guess in mindset?
Well, I mean, how do I level up? I just do it, man.
I love it.
No, I mean,
After that whole speech of don't go at it alone, I just do it myself. And I'm
no. I'm not saying I do it myself.
No, I'm kidding.
Really, it starts with me, right? It starts with introspection, and it starts with me getting really honest with myself about where I'm at. And that includes the ugly side of where I'm at, which is like, sometimes, man, this, I'm not making as much money as I want to. Maybe it's, I'm not getting as many leads, like the things that aren't working, and just being really honest about that without judgment. Say, okay, it is what it is. Then saying, where do I want to go? Right. And then I look to where I want to go, and I say, just like what you said, what do I need, or who do I need to get there? And I start kind of searching for that. And then we just focus on that. I mean, the best way that I can describe how I level up is I just get really focused, and I decide to focus on the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference.
It's great. Erica, thank you so much for coming on here and delivering all that value for the listeners who love you. They want to learn more. They want to get in touch with you. How can they find you?
You can find me on any of the socials: Instagram at Erica Martin Consulting, Facebook /Erica Martin Consulting. Or if you want to email me directly, I respond to all emails. It's Erica at selfirresistibly.com.
We'll make sure to link that in the show notes. Erica, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want, check out our most recent video over here. And this one is the one YouTube thinks you'll like. But if you really enjoyed watching, please do me a favor, like and subscribe over here. Thank you so much.